dudes.
Represents a clear and present danger to the national security of the United States.
You have no idea what men are.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Clear and Present Dudes, the podcast that stares down cinematic thrillers with the intensity of Clint Eastwood eyeing up an empty chair at the Republican National Convention. I am one of your hosts, Mike Dunbar, and I'm joined here by my good friend, Rory James O'Toole. Say hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
And if you are joining us now on Spotify and you aren't trying to get to sleep or driving a car, you may have noticed that we are now in video, which is a new thing for us that we're going to take ahead. But unfortunately, sadly, the other thing we have is the absence of one of our Clear and Present dudes, Sanje Bjorkson, who couldn't make it with us today because he's at sea defending Germany from its villains and threats, I suppose.
From Staatsfeind Nummer 1.
Yeah.
Staatsfeind Nummer 2, Staatsfeind Nummer 3. Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. As I always try and say, please rate the show if you can on Apple podcasts, and if you want to pop a little review down there, that would be really, really handy as well. It's really, really good for the old algorithm. So yeah, that would be much appreciated. And today we are gathered here to discuss the 19... There we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. To discuss the...
We come to bury the Firefox, not praise it.
We're here to discuss the 1982 spy fighter jet thriller movie Firefox, directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Clint Eastwood, based on the book by Craig Thomas. I asked ChatGPT to prepare some remarks for me just to see what happens, and they are terrible. Here we go. Today, we're strapping into Firefox, 1982 flick where Clint Eastwood not only directs but also plays a Vietnam vet tasked with stealing the Soviet Union's most advanced fighter jet. Get ready for a tense mission behind enemy lines, questionable Russian accents, and enough Cold War paranoia to give you frostbite.
Jesus Christ, the frostbite. Hey, what does that even mean? That's bad. That's not good.
Cool. Yeah, should we? Well, listen. Oh, I did have one thing to talk about before we get too far into this, which was for the bants on our episodes on Spotify now. For a little while, I've been putting little user polls, and they don't get many votes or anything, but I have had 2 votes on one of my polls, which was who is the best Jack Ryan, and I gave all the options, including the correct answer, Harrison Ford. And it was a 50-50 tie between Harrison Ford and who do you think it would be as the other person who might be the other 50%? Your options are Alec Baldwin, Ben Affleck, Chris Pine, and John Krasinski. Yeah, Jim from The Office. Who do you think the other one is?
Well, it's not going to be Chris Pine.
It is Chris Pine. Somebody out there thinks the best Jack Ryan is Chris Pine from the movie Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Have we not been clear enough with this podcast? Do I need to get a formal statement about we stan Harrison Ford in this house?
Harrison Ford's a fucking hero in this house. Bloody hell!
I'm 80% sure that someone did that as a hilarious joke, and I'm sure if that person wants to own up, I invite them to leave a comment on the Spotify and just let me know what was going through your head. You could have your reasons. I haven't seen the movie for a long time, so it might actually be better than I remember.
I've actually never seen the film. It's the one Jack Ryan property I've never seen. So it certainly wasn't the evil one for us.
The plane, Firefox, the most devastating killing machine ever built.
The weapon system is one of the most advanced ever conceived, with a thought-guided, thought-controlled arsenal on board the plane. If the Soviets can mass produce it, it will change the structure of our world.
The man, Mitchell Gant, the most daring U.S. fighter pilot ever to fly a plane.
I don't one of you think I have a chance in the world of pulling this off.
Don't say
anything. Just fly the damn plane. I'm a tiger. Ah!
Mitchell Gant.
Mitchell Gant.
Steal Firefox.
Gant, can you fly that plane?
This is what most of the movie is these little conversations in little dark rooms.
Yeah.
Great mother of God, he's up!
I'm speaking to the individual who has stolen the property of the USSR.
We're getting the royal treatment.
You will not, of course, make it to wherever you are going.
Let's see what this baby can do.
Captain, he's coming straight in.
I don't know what it is, but I'm a sitting duck.
This is like the last 20 minutes of the movie. They're just going to show us the whole climax of the movie.
Yeah, and it's not so climactic.
Well, that's it. We might as well all go home.
We don't know.
The hell we don't know. They got him, Aubrey.
I don't know.
We don't know.
It could mean
They don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows.
It could mean they didn't get it.
The Bene Gesserit mothers know.
In one of the most incredible undercover operations in history.
In history, like it happened.
In history, good God. This is you can kind of get away with the Hunt for Red October saying, this actually happened, but people tell you it's bullshit kind of thing. But with this, all this, no, historically no one stole the Russian super plane that never existed.
Yeah, well, this is it. So the thing about submarine operations is that by their very nature, they're extremely sneaky beaky, and nobody knows what happens out at sea. But with the fighter jet, there's a small garrison town just outside there.
It's like,
so it's not like you can steal a plane and have it not make news. There's a subject of a different movie that came out just before this, which is about a different Soviet fighter jet, Foxhound.
the guy who literally flew to Japan to defect.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And they made a movie about that and stealing the plans for it.
Yeah, you literally get shout-outs in the book. It references Gant having spoken to him.
Because of course they're buddies.
Yeah, because he's been briefed by him and stuff like that. And it does add a bit of veracity to the book, which I enjoyed, by the way. I'm not quite sure if the book or the film were bleaker.
That's a good segue into, I think, general impressions of the movie. I hadn't seen the movie. Well, I thought I hadn't seen the movie before. And it's probably worth pointing out at this juncture as well that this is a listener request. Jim from Cramlington wanted us to cover this, and I happened to bump into him the other weekend. So
Yeah, certainly did.
friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast, Jim coming in clutch with a big pick.
Yeah. So, and I was chatting to him about doing this, and I said, because I'd watched it by then, and I said I hadn't remembered ever seen it before, and the name didn't really ring a bell too much. But then in the last 20 minutes, it suddenly unlocked a core memory, and I was like, I have seen this. I've seen this at when I was in my teens on Sky Cinema on a Saturday morning at some point.
Yes.
And then just watched it for 20 minutes. This movie advertised itself, and you saw in the trailer there that it's this big action. He's swinging fists. It's the intercut every couple of seconds with the jet flying. That's not what this movie's like, though. This movie is in broad terms, general sort of vibes. It's a paranoid Cold War movie with a really a lonesome, damaged, lonely main character who's out of his depth immediately.
Completely, yeah.
He goes around telling everyone he's the only person on the world who can fly this plane, but that's his wheelhouse. But he's not in his wheelhouse for most of the movie. Most of the movie, he's the world's least successful spy.
Yeah.
And it's all in the dark, and it's all these drab places, and he's he goes to an airport, he's in a hotel room, he's in the back of a van, he's in someone's farmhouse.
Yeah, he's in it's always he's in an office somewhere. He's in a warehouse.
He's in a toilet. Yeah. It's not until an hour and 15 minutes into the movie where you finally see the jet, and then he's in the jet, and then for the last 25 half an hour, then he's in his zone. He's doing his thing, but you get 75 minutes of him just being like, not good at this. And and it's really weird. And I did see some like revisionist takes online of I couldn't speak to like how it was taken at the time. I think it got like quite a high rating from like Roger Ebert. Thought it was really thrilling, really good, all that kind of stuff. Ronald Reagan loved the movie.
Holy shit! No
Yeah,
way.
Ronald Reagan loved it. 2 thumbs up from me, which is weird because it's about
Reagan thumbs up.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because it's whilst he is like doing the red, white, blue for Uncle Sam, and he's been called out of retirement to do one last mission kind of thing. It starts with him being like really in a bad way from the unresolved PTSD trauma from his time in Vietnam. And you see this like flashback of him in a bamboo cage being carried along, and he's sometimes most of him breaking out into like cold sweats and shaking and having panic attacks and stuff. So
the book is crazy with that, by the way. The book is absolutely crazy with his flashbacks and stuff. Notice the film calls it delayed stress reaction.
Yeah, I call that. I think
that's weird, man. Because by that point, post-traumatic stress disorder was definitely like a diagnosed thing, right? I'd say as far as reviews as well go. Quickly circling back to the book, Firefox. Arthur Haley said, an excellent, exciting book. It's such a weak endorsement. Oh, it's excellent, exciting, whatever. I'm Arthur Haley. I wrote Airport. I don't give a shit, man.
It's like, very nicely bound. It was a very attractive edition.
Nice. It's a book that exists. Nothing's existed as hard as this book. I perceived this book.
Well, I think we'll hit on some more reception in a bit, but it's probably worth for the listener who is listening to this as a service to understand what we're talking about. So, the movie is about a joint British and American plan devised to steal the Soviet Union's most advanced new fighter stealth aircraft, the MiG-31, which didn't exist at the time, NATO codename Firefox, which is capable of Mach 6 hypersonic flights. Apparently is invisible to radar, although I've got some interesting stuff about that we can go into later. And its most amazing, mind-boggling thing is that fire control of the weapons is controlled by the thoughts of the pilot, which is apparently the critical edge it's going to give, because it can shorten the gap between thinking of pressing a button and pressing a button. So you've won back a couple of seconds there, which you might have wasted pressing a button on a fire control system. So the story focuses on Clint Eastwood, who plays retired US Air Force Major Mitchell Gant, who, as we said, is an experienced Vietnam vet pilot and was an ex-member of something called Aggressor Squadron, and he was a prisoner of war. However, he is the best pilot they have. So the movie starts with him living as a recluse somewhere. It's
California doubling for Alaska.
That's right, California doubling for Alaska.
But it's filmed in California because logistics.
And it does one of my favourite movie tropes, like right from the beginning. So it's him out going for a jog, and it's something you only ever see in movies from the 70s and 80s, is people going out for a jog in like sweatshirts and full trousers, and they're just absolutely drenched in sweat. I love that as a look. So he's out doing that, he's jogging, keeps fit, and then a helicopter comes, and like he immediately has a flashback to his time in Vietnam and assumes he's being chased by a helicopter, so he flees back to his house, runs inside, grabs a shotgun. But it's that classic, like, the old vet who's been like out of the game for years is like chopping wood in his garden, and like some guy comes up and he's like, "We need you for one last job."
I don't fly anymore. I'm too messed up with a delayed stress reaction.
Yeah, I don't fly anymore. That's not who I am. The beginning bit of the movie, I suppose, as well, that we should talk about is how they have, because there's a lot of exposition delivered to us, like really quickly, like and one of them is they have this meeting between, I guess it's like a combined delegation of like the American and the British intelligence services, and we have this one guy, Freddie Jones plays a character called Aubrey, I want to say Kenneth Aubrey. Yeah. Aubrey. There's a scene there with the combined intelligence of the UK and the US, what appears to be like the drawing room of a stately home, which is obviously where these kind of meetings take place, and not like a drab office building in central London. But
we must return to tradition. We must reject modernity. Every vital meeting must now take place in the dining room of some beautiful stately pile, preferably one that's haunted.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. I'm sick of conference rooms. I'm sick of MS Teams. everyone has to just meet in these like mahogany rooms, book pipes, and just hear like the distant weeping of like the lady in grey who hanged herself 350 years ago this very night.
I'll tell you what I do love about this is, considering this is 1982, so where are the Bonds at this time? We're still in Roger Moore territory, aren't we? Which was the back end of Roger Moore territory Bond. So the British intelligence services, as depicted on screen at this time, it goes between like Bond, Roger Moore era Bond, and I think is the Alec Guinness, George Smiley TV films, are they coming out at the same sort of time?
Yes, they were.
So that's your other side, and I think this movie is probably unusually for the subject matter of the film. Is went more for the Smiley style of spy. So you've got this not elderly, but like middle-aged, avuncular, slightly portly, looks a bit like a history professor guy. Briefing is about the MiG-31. He is representing the Secret Intelligence Services. So I love that. Yeah, it's great. So he's great. British spy master guiding the plan. That's it.
And it's excellent because he looks like a hobbit who's been like stretched and made to like take on human form. Like, you expect him on his like weekends to be dressed entirely in tweed, including a tweed tie, just like down at like a pub that's like older than the United States of America by at least a century, shithoused on like 15 pints of Ruddles, but still standing. And just talking about, when I was in Korea, he's great. I love the guy. I've got a lot of time for him. All
the locals, they don't know his name because they all suspect he's a spy, so they don't know his real name. So they all just call him Mr. Toad.
So of course they refer to his house as Toad Hall.
Absolutely, God,
incredible. So they're meeting in Toad Hall basically, and this is like the Wind and the Willows extended universe, right?
That's great. So they devised the plan that Mitchell Gant is the one guy who they're gonna train up and then send into Russia to go and steal his fighter jet. And it's a bit like the conceit of Armageddon, isn't it? If you heard the absolutely legendary Ben Affleck commentary track of Armageddon.
Sure, you mentioned it when we were talking about Meteor, but
oh my God, it's so good. So there's a whole bit where he's so sardonic, and there's one clip that does the rounds. You'll find it on YouTube and stuff. I'll put it in the show notes, baby. Where he's talking about how the whole conceit of that movie is they all decide that it would be easier to get a bunch of experienced oil drillers and bring them to NASA and then teach them in a matter of weeks how to become astronauts, instead of just getting a bunch of astronauts who are already experienced engineers.
You want to send these boys into space? Fine. I'm sure they'll make good astronauts. They don't know jack about drilling.
I mean, this is a little bit of a logic stretch, let's face it. They don't know jack about drilling. How hard can it be? Aim the drill at the ground and turn it on.
And this movie's the same thing. It's like, right, we've got one pilot in the whole of America who can fly this one plane, but unfortunately we're going to have to get him to be a shithouse spy. Whereas, is it possible that maybe you could get someone who's quite good at being a spy and then teach him how to fly a plane?
And it's crazy because, I mean, especially in like the way the film postulates it, the major things are he's obviously flown in the aggressor squadron, which is like a real life thing in the US military. It's a squadron that flies like Op-4 aircraft. Something you train against and stuff. There'll be other guys that can fly MiGs.
It's part of the Top Gun, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's part of the Top Gun school. There's the three prongs of it.
That is the exact same size as the pilot who's scheduled to fly the plane, which means he's going to fit like exactly into his pressure suit, which is like and he speaks Russian because he's half Russian, his mom's Russian, and he grew up speaking it, and he got his mom's brilliant cowboy accent when he speaks Russian a few times.
It's so good.
Which is brilliant, because it's like, I don't know what's a better flex. Sean Connery speaking about 4 words of Russian, one of which is just cold at the start of Hunt for October. Clint Eastwood just unrepentantly speaking Russian with a cowboy accent. It's like,
Das Vidanya.
It's like, Das Vidanya, pilgrim. And I guess there's a whole, because he's got to think in Russian as well. And it's like, I mean, the whole mind-powered controlled thing is very silly. you lower the tone by talking about 4chan. I saw a really good like post on 4chan years ago, and someone was like, "Be me, 18-year-old neat or whatever, get really stoned, think about picking up a glass of water, pick up the glass of water, realize I just technically moved it with my mind, have a panic attack." Because if you reach out, what up? Oh, shit, man, I'm just see that. It's opened the can of monster out of my mind.
Whoa.
Oh man, it's
Use
like
the
it's so
voice.
silly. It's like open. It's like in the original Death Race 2000, how when they're talking about David Carradine's character's got like a bionic hand that makes him able to change gear in like half a second, and like anyone can change gear in less than a second. It's not really difficult. It's incredibly simple. It's like a lot of people just kind of underestimate the length of a second. It's like, and I've one time I was like driving on Crammy, like I'm gonna say how quickly, you see, I'm basically
I've done it in an instant.
parody, you know,
0.3 of a second. There we are. Sorted.
0.3 of a second. There we go. Class. The book doesn't do the whole Oz, Mom's Russian, he speaks Russian kind of thing. Instead, the book just says he's had intensive lessons and he's been taught how to speak with a British accent as well, because his cover is like he's a Brit. So
good. Right. I want to ask you about this. So there's a short training sequence, which is just him going to an airfield, having one conversation with someone. He goes, "Do you really think I can do this? Or are you just sending me out here to die?" And that's the only time he has doubt. And then for the rest of the movie, he's like super confident that he's the only person who can fly this plane, even though he's a really bad spy. Anyway, one weirdly overcomplicated thing is that the cover story they generate for him is that instead of being like just a routine American businessman coming to Russia and then having his purpose be in order, they make him be, in the film, he's a guy called Leon Sprague, who is a heroin smuggler.
Yeah,
but he's like a state-known heroin smuggler or something.
Yeah, it's the same in the book.
What the fuck is that?
Like, it's crazy. It's a really paranoid double, triple bluff. The whole book is full of double bluffs. It's crazy. The idea is that he's like a low-level enemy of the state. He's like enemy of the state number 23 or something. He's like lower down on the KGB's radar, and he's specifically lower down, I guess, on the directorate that doesn't deal with like espionage and super fighters and protecting the basic Bryansk and stuff like that. And the then set up that other guy who looks a bit like him and dresses like him to get killed by his mates, get his face rendered unrecognizable.
Great.
And then there you go. The heroin smuggler, who was an economic criminal, he's dead. There you go. The crazy thing is, right, this is how high stakes the operation is in the book. The guy that they kill, the guy that the dudes truncheon to death in the park, he's part of the British Embassy's security detail, and he's just set up to get killed by the SIS. Like, that's bleak, right?
That's a service complaint, isn't it?
Yeah, that's. I mean, ethics check on that, please, Mike.
That's just culture. Yeah. That's not on,
like,
is it?
Yeah, so they have him set up as a guy that is kind of on the radar, but for different reasons, I guess, and then it then gives them a way to kind of destroy his cover identity, meaning that he can then assume a second cover identity, because he's given like some additional papers that, like, you know, show him to someone else, and he goes from the Moscow hotel to the Warsaw hotel.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I was going to ask you about that.
I went on TripAdvisor to like see if the Hotel Moskva had any bad reviews. Sadly, it doesn't.
So you've answered my question about the Leon Sprague business, because I was, when I first watched it, I was a bit like, why did this guy who like why did the real Leon Sprague like turn up? I wouldn't turn up. So a guy who looks exactly like you, who's really important, is coming into the country. We need you to come and meet him. Why?
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? It's like, so imagine like saying to a member of the British Embassy's security staff, we need you to have your mustache a specific way and wear some specific clothing, and we're just going to hang around, you know, with me and a few other Russian dissidents, and we're going to wait for a guy to turn up who's dressed suspiciously like you, and after that, I don't know, the night's young, we could go see a film or something.
Yeah. I mean, the lie that they probably told him is that, first of all, the real guy is the other guy's name, and the reason you're there is that the two of you are going to go off in different directions and split the KGB's resources so that we can only follow one of you at a time, and then you're going to obviously be like a red herring, and they'll catch you, but then they'll show them your real papers, and then you'll be fine.
Like, and you'd think that might be the kind of way to do it, right? Because he's part of the embassy, you know, like he's got diplomatic protection.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not
but
like...
instead, the answer is butcher him to death in the middle of the park.
Render him unrecognizable. The book makes a huge deal about that.
The Wikipedia summary at this point just says, Gant assumes several identities during his mission, which is an understatement. There's a whole sequence where he's getting on a train and he thinks he's being followed, and we watch like an entire train journey take place.
It's brilliant. It's a film that's like positively serene in its pacing, despite the grimness of its setting. Even like if you just took out some of the shots of like the sweeping vistas and the kind of long bleak drives in endless nothing, it's like you could easily bill it if like you took a few of those scenes together, chop it up. It's like we've made an art house film about the struggles of modern day Soviet peasantry.
Stalker. So he has that train journey, goes into the metro station, and I bring this particular example up for a reason. So we have that whole metro station bathroom fight. So he goes to the metro station. He meets up. I think it's Warren Clark he meets up with. Who I love Warren Clark, but he can't do a Russian accent, sadly. They've asked him to do something that's beyond the extent of his abilities, unfortunately, in this case. But Clint Eastwood's still having his delayed stress reaction.
Yeah, it's fucking delayed stress reaction. And
he slinks off to the bathroom, gets into a cubicle, has one of his sweating attacks. And then a KGB secret policeman steps in to the bathroom, looks around a little bit, and then starts talking to him through the door, saying like, "Hurry up, I want to have a look at your papers." And then the guy looks at the papers and he goes, "Your papers are not in order." And instead of insisting that your papers are in order, they try to and just catching the guy and calling his bluff. So he just starts throwing hands. He just starts throwing hands straight away. He has a fight, kills the guy, and then he gets told off for killing the guy, rightly by Warren Clark. He's like, "You idiots! You shouldn't have done that." And he shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't go around killing members of the KGB within an hour of you entering the country. That's
in the book.
Really
it's really funny as well because obviously he's really freaking out, and so like Pavel goes, "Go to the toilet and make yourself sick because you look really ill, really freaky. So go to the toilet." Make yourself sick. So these people will think, "Oh no, this guy's thrown up." And so he goes off like to the netty, and then it's like he didn't have to make himself be sick, but he does end up like sitting on the toilet and gets a knock on the door, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in the loo," and the Russian guy's like, English. He's like, "I'm in the loo," he said, remembering his training or something like that.
Remembering his
"I'm in the loo, damn it. I'm having a big old whittle. Here am I, broken-hearted, paid a penny, etc."
Oh my god. "I'll be up with you in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, governor. I've just having a Jimmy Whittle in the old loo, in the old ditty."
Man.
Oh, this is perfectly normal.
Estoy pooping! Estoy pooping! The fight's better in the book, by the way, because he just he kind of just knees him in the balls and then like strangles him with a towel.
That is better. It's too long.
It's too long.
It's not like you can go 2 ways with this. It's either we haven't had any action for a while. Yeah. So this fight is actually something we kind of are waiting for almost. It's a bit of catharsis because we've just been sitting around waiting for something to happen for ages, and finally, something's happening. But it's kind of, and I'm not a director, but it's kind of clumsily directed a little bit. Like it's so the viewpoint they decide to put you in is of the KGB's agents. So you've got Clint Eastwood is like coming towards us and throwing hands at us, the audience.
It's so weird, and he's like he's coming at you like slows as well, and I don't get it. Oh, like it's terrible. I mean,
there's no violence of action, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, at this point in his career, Clint Eastwood's more than capable of doing a really nasty, brutal bathroom fight scene. This kind of thing should come easy to.
He's directed several movies by this point, including like High
Yeah.
Plains Drifter and The Outlaw
Yeah.
Josie Wales. Like he's like he's not like new to the game. This isn't his first time around with the boy on this.
And even his acting as well as the directing, it's like this guy was Dirty Harry, man, and it's just one day we're going to do a tier list of all the bathroom fight scenes, aren't we? I mean, like, this isn't on the list.
So from there, they continue their escape. They manage to get out of the metro station just before the body's discovered. And there's a nice little bit of like cross-cutting just about to discover the body, just as they're trying to negotiate their way out of the metro station. But they continue their journey then with some new identities again.
Yeah.
Towards their final location, which is the airbase at Bilyarsk, which is the final resting place of the Firefox. So they make their way across country there. But the KGB are kind of onto them now. Sort of. They're aware that someone's coming.
In the book, the KGB are fully aware that the scientists involved are part of the spy ring. And they're just literally waiting for this is very Cold War. They're literally waiting for the most theatrical moment when they can bust the spy ring.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's like
that's hinted at in the movie. That they're aware of them, and they're tracking them, and they want to kind of pounce on them at a certain time.
Yeah.
Just see what they do. Just see what they do. See where they go next.
Yeah, and also because they especially want to like bust the scientists just as the first secretary's getting there. So there you go. So I'm gonna get mad promotions because I'm breaking a spy ring right in front of the big boss.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
It's a bit like that bit in Rogue One where Krennic rocks up just in time to kill
oh my God, yes.
Galen Erso and everybody.
Oh yes. And then again, as I said previously in our prelude, like doing this episode, this film in a way walked so Rogue One could run. It's even insofar as it absolutely erases the lives of almost everyone involved on the good guy side.
Like, it massively does. Yeah. That's a really
merciless. It is merciless. Completely merciless.
And they're not given glorious deaths either. They're kind of like, some of them are pretty sad and pathetic, aren't they?
I mean, there's the guy who gets beaten to death in his interrogation.
Yeah.
One of them he just took poison off screen when he got arrested. And then you get Pavel when he finally obviously survives long enough to see the Firefox take flight. And he's just like, I'm gonna shoot myself now.
Yeah. That's so sad. Yeah, and that's the one I was thinking of. Another connection then, before we get too far off this, and it all connects. So Industrial Light and Magic's John Dykstra was the special visual effects producer of this movie. So so there's a lot of visual callbacks to Star Wars and some kind of little narrative ones as well.
There's some casting callbacks to Star Wars as well. Yeah,
indeed there is. But there's a production, a special visual effects callback as well. So that's nice.
Yeah,
and you saw it during the trailer there. So it's been a few weeks since I watched the movie properly, so I wasn't quite familiar in my head with like a lot of the footage of the jet is against high speed, like sped up footage of like actual clouds and topography. But there is one sequence towards the end where they're flying through a valley in what's probably meant to be the Urals, but that is actually, that's all miniature work for the landscapes, and you can see it because there's quite an obvious gorge that they've kind of created there for it, and that is very redundant of the trench run at the end of
completely,
absolutely. The New Hope.
Yeah. Even just like kind of like conceits when how like the air-to-air missiles look a little bit like photon torpedoes. And even like the ship's cannons sound a little bit like laser guns at times.
Cool. Well, we've got quite far ahead there. So I suppose Mitchell Gant is going to infiltrate the airbase itself. Before he does that, he goes and speaks to some of the scientists who are going to get him in.
Yeah,
and the scientist's wife. So he gets a bit of a brief on the stepped up physical security they've got at the place. Like dog patrols and how many people are marching around the perimeter and all that kind of stuff. And the additional niff-naff and trivia they've laid on because there's a cock and arse because the first secretary's coming.
And again, you get the these people are doomed to die kind of vibe. Like he's meeting the kind of chief scientist, the one they keep calling a Jew,
Dr. Peter Baranovich.
Yeah, that's the one. The book also really lays it on thick. The book, like everyone's always dissing as ethnicity and religion. So when he meets like Baranovich and his wife, just very much get these people are going to die. These people aren't going to be able to survive. It's very doomed. It's a doomer film. Thanks, Jim.
It's really obvious though, and it's kind of good that they set it that way because like it's really obvious that once the jet's up in the air, like it's all going to turn inward. Like, right, how did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
heads will roll, and it'll just start a cascade of heads rolling, like because that's such like a thumb in the eye to the motherland, you know.
Yeah, basically, I mean, no one's gonna survive this who's on the good guy side, you know.
So at least the movie like is upfront about that and doesn't try to like, because it would have been really easy, I think, especially this point in the Cold War and everything, to make a movie that was like super jingoistic and just like there was no negative consequences for everybody, just got away with it. But at least it kind of highlights like the masses of people in the background. I'll tell you what it reminds me of, going back to Star Wars again, Andor. It's all the ordinary people who are within the cogs of the machine, who are slowly, like, in their own tiny little acts of incredible courage, are doing just moving the needle that tiny little bit to contribute to a broader goal. And it's cool that this movie kind of like shows that, actually. That's something I will give this movie credit for. It doesn't communicate it especially well, because it's kind of hard to watch after a while, like until you get to the, like. And I'm not saying that because like I've got the attention span of a toddler, like these.
We played Subway Surfers while watching it. You played Subway Surfers while watching it. Skibbity toilets playing in the background, like Skibbity Firefox. What the Sigma?
No, no, like because like I'm a big fan of like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and stuff. Like I have got an attention span that can. This movie doesn't like explicitly say a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff is like you have to like add it together yourself, because it doesn't hang on to, like, no one says like this is the sacrifice I'm making, you know, for the greater good kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think they don't really delve into the whys and like wherefores of why they're doing it.
Pavel, Gant's main ally, his wife is Jewish and is in prison for protesting the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. So that's, I think, kind of his main motivation. It's not out of particular love at all for America. I think that's just out of anger at what his country's done, but it's a kind of cold, measured, quiet anger, you know, that's going to kill him in the end. It's nihilistic in a way. They don't have a Western, both with Western culturally and Wild West, I guess, bent around them, these good guys. They aren't like the plucky villagers who were like, oh, we're going to defend the village against the marauding whatever. And Clint Eastwood, the High Plains drifter, is going to come and whatever, you know. Clint Eastwood's going to ride in and help us defend ourselves against the kind of force.
Like the man in black, you know, like the white hats aren't going to beat the black hats, and it's all going to be happy.
Yeah,
the law's back in town.
It's
for those individual people, like it's over. They've already lost.
Yeah.
All they want to do is like stop total annihilation, and maybe hope that in the future for successive generations they may have made things better. But there's no hope for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I burned my life for a sunrise I'll never see.
That will go again. Yeah. Like it's. I don't know, man. I really love this film. I really love just the characterization of all these people who.
I've talked myself into liking it a lot more now, actually, over the last like sort of 10-15 minutes.
No, dude, seriously. When I watched it, I was like, "This is brilliant," right? Because like all these guys, like, there's no gung ho about it.
Even Gant's not gung ho. Like he.
No,
he doesn't have this. He's not
mentally.
He's exactly. He's arrogant in the sense that, or maybe he is a realist. Like in the reality of the film, he maybe is the only person who could fly the plane. So you know, he might be, as far as he's concerned, speaking factually, it is me. I'm the only person who can fly this plane. It is me. You know. Yeah. Because there's no ego about him besides that. That's the only thing he's super egotistical about, is that I am the best pilot. I am the best stick jockey. But apart from that, he has no confidence. You know, and he's fully out of his depth the entire time, and he's getting kind of demolished for a lot of the film as well by various dissidents and stuff.
Yeah, like it isn't even like he's treated as a big shot in the States before he goes over to Russia. It's like he can do it. Like they're like, oh, you can do this kind of thing, but we're still nervous about you.
That's probably why Reagan liked the movie so much, because it shows these people as being like as noble, brave people who don't like the USSR, but also they live under it and they're miserable and they're all poor. So it's like, don't live over there. It's shit. Even the good guys have a shit time. Like, Stay over here. We're gonna have RoboCop soon. Like,
good grief.
so as you were saying, he has the brief with the scientists and his wife. And they talk about, and they brief him that there's going to be a second plane in the hangar. So there's not just the one plane they've got; there's a second plane as well. Which means for us, it's like that could mean there's a dogfight because you know, up to this point, once he's taken off, we're like, well, it's the best plane in the world. It's super fast. It's got like mind bullets. That's telekinesis, Kyle. So what's the threat once he's airborne? Well, now the threat is there's a second one of these planes, another prototype. So, you know, it's setting up the obvious showdown. There's a whole weird bit, and I want you to shed some light on this as well, having read the book. There's a whole weird bit where his access to the base is secured. He's given a uniform. He's going to take the identity of a lieutenant colonel or something.
Yeah.
The first secretary is going to arrive at like 1900 hours or something. Until then, just hide in this building and put the shower on. And if anyone comes, just see her in the shower.
Yeah, it's crazy. In the book, he's like literally sitting on a chair in the shower, just berating someone who tries to come in.
Yeah, right, that's it. So there's a bit in the movie, and it's in the trailer.
Yeah.
So it's in the trailer where he's there, and he's like, he's obviously stripped down because like, I'm in the shower, I need to be naked.
Yeah.
And he hears people coming. So there's a little shot of you can even see it in the trailer where he's like, lines himself up against like the wall with his pistol whilst he's naked, while the water's running. Like, oh, if they come, I better be ready to shoot. And it's like, you're in the shower. You've done you weren't gonna go through with the cover of being naked in the shower. Why? And get the gun out. Why did you take your clothes off, you lunatic? Like, you're gonna shoot someone when they came in anyway.
Like, he's literally just chilling on a chair in the shower room, just like kicking off for them and berating them and telling them off through the door. It's brilliant.
I'm having a shower. I'm gonna fly a jet in a bit. I need to have a shower.
I gotta be really smooth for this. I gotta be hydrated.
I'm manscaping.
I'm manscaping. It's like, because no one knows where the like controls for the mind impulse link go, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask about that as well. So this might have been a moment when I was looking away and not paying attention. Like, how does it link to his brain in a non-invasive way?
It doesn't show any kind of like non-invasive or invasive kind of.
Could you imagine if like David Cronenberg made this movie? It'd be like a bone sticking in that like links like a little frungly nerve ending that like wraps around an exposed bone on the back of his neck or something. It'd be horrific.
It would be incredibly Warhammer 40,000, wouldn't it? It would be like just like some like narrow cables snake up his face and in through like his tear. There's like a bit of blood, and he's like, it's good to be king.
It'd be like Videodrome. It'd be like he gets the helmet on and like the visor moves and then like a back projection from inside the visor comes out or something. Yeah. It'd be something grim.
God, man.
I love David Cronenberg.
But so no, there's no like real kind of explanation as to the whole mind impulse thing or how any of it really works. I mean, he talks to himself in Russian to fire the missiles.
Yeah, I was going to get into that.
Yes, and people were mad about it in the IMDb goofs as well.
Yeah, I bet they were. They were. So he gets out of the shower. He gets the flight suit on, and he's walking across the hangar. The hangar is filling up with scientists, and the first secretary's arriving. So there's a delegation of people arriving, I guess, like all around the same kind of time. He's got the flight suit on, though, so no one can see who he is. He climbs into the jet like no big deal, just like delatches whatever, the little tubes that stick into like pressurized air and all that kind of carry on.
Yeah,
I might be fusing this with my memory of watching Top Gun Maverick shortly after, like arming the missiles, all that good stuff. Anyway, he climbs in. Somebody makes him straight away, and he's like, "Oh, I just need to see your ID card." And he's just like, and he's like, "I need to see your ID," and this is my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing, and I love this whenever I see it in a movie. And I saw it in something else recently as well. It's great. He shoves him away by pushing his face. I love a little man getting pushed away by the face. It's just like so emasculating.
Well. It's like, gone.
Bye.
Later, man.
And then as this is happening, the KGB have just finally figured out the true identity of the guy who's going to steal the jet, Mitchell Gant. But they're too late. They walk into the hangar. He's already there, firing it up, and the guy goes, "Mitchell Gant." Useful.
Yes.
And that's the guy who's in Star Wars. He's the Admiral.
Yes.
What's his name in Star Wars?
Yes, Admiral Piet. In the book, the scientists create the diversion before Gant appears. So, like, the plan is they're going to create a diversion by setting fire, essentially, to the second prototype, right?
That's right. That's in the movie.
Yeah. So one of the the scientists go off and have like a little bit of a conversation in the corner, and like obviously they're kind of trying to keep away from the handlers because everyone's watched all the time, and like the little kind of town itself is more like a prison camp kind of thing. And they're having a conversation with each other like without the handlers noticing, and Branovich goes to like one of the other engineers, goes, right, so you've got to excuse yourself, go to the toilet, and then when you come back, you've got to do the diversion. So he goes off to the toilet. It takes a while to come back, and when he reemerges, Branovich notices him alone, and like Branovich's internal monologue is like, he's taken a wrench and killed the guard that followed him. It's like, I wish we'd seen that in the film. And then he sets fire to a fuel drum that's, I guess, conveniently the prototype, and then he's not seen for like a few pages until Branovich witnesses him just wandering around fully engulfed in flame, because not only is he set on fire, he set himself on fire. It's mental. And shortly after that, Branovich and his mates get gunned down. But like Branovich dies thinking that Gant hadn't made it, which is, I guess, kind of sad.
That's kind of sad, yeah.
You see what I mean? It's doomed.
Who isn't doomed, of course, is Mitchell Gant, who doesn't manage to in effect to get away. So he starts the jet up. They're all like, shut the door, but it's too late. He gets through the door, and you see him take off. And now, of course, that's when we see Warren Clark film himself as well. Again, so even in that moment of triumph, there's the sadness of Warren Clark ending his own life. The music at this point, we'll talk about music when it comes to needle drops as well. But the music at this point, for me, the score at this point was particularly galling, because it kind of went from the tension of the escape. It goes a little bit sad when Warren Clark kills himself, and then like the most ridiculously over-the-top triumphant fanfare then plays over the first shots of the Firefox in flight. And it's just like,
I know.
It's like, this is so cheesy. And it's not like cheese in a good way. It's just like cheesy. It sounds... And I love Michelle Jarre, right? Michelle Jarre? That's right, isn't it? Maurice Jarre. I mixed that. It was a conflation of Jean-Michel Jarre, Popcorn. No, Maurice Jarre. But, we've talked about him before. So he did the score for No Way Out.
Yeah.
He's also famous for Witness, Dr. Zhivago, but also this movie. And again, I'll talk about it when we do Needle Drops. But I'm a big fan of his work. But for this one, not so much, unfortunately. But we have the plane in flight, and there's a bit of a sequence where the spies back in, I guess, the UK or America, it looks like they're in the UK with an American liaison there. They are kind of figuring out whether or not Gant's airborne. He's got this like tracker device that they sent him off with. They had to carry on his person the entire time.
Yeah.
It's weird they make a big point about that, but then they never see any peril come to that device. He just has it the entire time, and it's fine.
The book constantly refers to it as the death aid.
Is that meant to be a pun?
No, it's just Mitchell Gant thinks it's a bit like a hearing aid, so as then a monologue calls it the death aid. There's some antiquated language in this book and this film, but especially in the book. Yeah. So he has that device. He plugs it into the jet. So again, they haven't got have they got the plans for this jet? But they've managed to create a device that works with it and interfaces with it perfectly. No drivers required. All fine. Just plugs it in. Anyway, right, that aside, maybe it's just a power supply, who knows. But in the book, he just straps it to his leg and it just like picks up a radio broadcast.
Yeah. Easy peas. Either way, they can determine that it's moving fast enough that it must be airborne. Therefore, oh my god.
Great mother of God, he's up!
Which is great. The first thing he does is he's obviously aware that whilst he's gaining height and before he kind of figures out how to use the jet properly, I suppose, he knows that he's going to be visible to some land-based radar systems, so he needs to steer them off in the wrong direction. So he initially starts by heading south. He has a conversation with the first secretary.
Yeah.
Who addresses him directly. Like, this is addressed to the gentleman who has stolen the property of the USSR. It's like, I'm getting the royal treatment. Oh, that's something to talk about, actually, is that from as soon as he gets off on that jet, like Clint Eastwood is talking to himself for like the whole of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, he narrates everything in English, but every thought he has, everything that comes to his mind, everything he does, he says out loud.
And I mean, the whole thing is, because I say, don't know that, there's going to be a kind of a black box running, so just in case you die, if you want to give us like kind of a blow-by-blow account of what you're doing, just so if we find your ice cube ass frozen dead body deep beneath the sea, and we can drag up the plane that it's entombed by, and we can listen to your voice, and so this button does this button does that. Yeah, it's It's not great.
No. So he has that conversation with the guy. He starts by like flying south. He has a whole thing where he's kind of implying that he's going to fly south into Central Europe, or I guess curve around or something like that, to try and get to Allied territory. But actually, his big plan the entire time is to fly north over the Arctic ice and refuel there.
Yeah, so he has to get himself like witnessed by an airliner who'll then obviously call it in. And then that's what he'll do is he'll like zig when the thing he's going to zag and he's going to go north to the Arctic. Yeah.
Which he does, and then from there, I guess I did say at the beginning that like the movie really picks up and is really interesting for like the last half an hour. But off and on, like so the first sort of 10 minutes of that is a bit of a cat and mouse. And you do get a fun back and forth between I guess it's the first secretary. There's Oliver Cotton, who plays Dmitry Prabin, who's like the head of the KGB, and there's one other guy who's there's a general. Yeah, it's General Vladimirov. Klaus Lovich, I think, plays General Vladimirov, who's like the guy in charge of the efforts to recover the jet. And interesting to see how it goes down in the book. So in the movie, it's indicated very much that this guy's quite capable. He's intelligent. Yeah. He's got a keen strategic mind, and also a psychological understanding and a physical understanding of the constraints and limitations of what's going on with the aircraft. So he's the one that calls out, it hasn't got enough fuel to make it back to America or even to the UK. So he has to land somewhere to refuel before he continues his onward journey. He's the one who says, like, right, he would want us to know that if we know where he's going, it's because he wants us to know where he's going. He wouldn't have made a mistake this early. So that's obviously part of his plan. So we should look the other way. He's the guy who calls out and disputes the disposition of forces change that the first secretary says. So when he does land to refuel, and there's a nearby, it's meant to be a Russian cruiser, but it's actually played by an American cruiser there. And it has its own organic aircraft, like helos. And they start doing a combat air patrol. He's the one who says to the first secretary, don't send them to that place, that last known location. That's a waste of time. It won't be there. Send them here on its first on. Yeah. That kind of stuff. So anyway, right, there's a whole bunch of backwards and forwards where they're arguing, and the general is shown to be like intelligent and all over it, and the first secretary is shown to be a reactionary, hot-headed buffoon, for want of a better term. So that's interesting. I like that. That's really cool. And that's about as interesting as they can make it, given that one person's going at like 6 times the speed of sound, apparently.
While people argue in an office about him, which I think is actually, I think it's fucking absolutely class, to be honest. It is a really good back and forth, and it's a long back and forth between them, and they're really loggerheads, and it's excellent. It's
a bit like in the back end of this movie, they've just slotted in a short film version of like Sink the Bismarck, just like that's going to run on for a little bit, where there's guys in a room arguing about how to do this thing, and then it goes back and deals with what he's up to.
The first point when we see the Firefox actually in action, and that's when it's picked up by ground-based surface weapon missiles, and it has some missiles fired at it, infrared homing missiles.
Yeah.
And same thing happens in the book. He's like, I've got to create a larger explosion than my jet engines. I'm going to shoot down this random reconnaissance aircraft that's flying back to base. And it's like, does your plane not have flare dispensers?
Yeah.
Of course, but later in the book, it has like, I think like 1 or 2 like super flares it can release. And it's like, that's an undersell of the industrial complex.
That's a good one. So there's 2 bits. Right, there's 2 bits about that sequence that I found irritating. One was, as you said, they didn't have flares on board the jet. That's mental. The second one is that that's the first time he does weapons release. So he goes through the whole process of I need to think in Russian, and then he says it in Russian, and then he fires the missile. Which one, him going through that process takes longer than pressing a button, and 2, he's done it. He's done it now at like minute 80 something of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the very end dogfight sequence hinges on him remembering, say it in Russian, and then he does it again, and it's like a whole use the force, Luke kind of sequence.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think of that, but yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
Man, now I just want like a bunch of X-Wings like coming like that.
Before he finishes though, there is the sequence. So I alluded to, there's a bit where he flies over an American cruiser, which is meant to be Russian, and there's a bit then after that he has to refuel. So this is cool. So they a US submarine comes up through the Arctic ice. He lands on the Arctic ice. That's cool. I quite like that. What I do like about it particularly is that you see the they must have made for the movie. They made like a handful of different models and props for the plane, right? But one of them is like a full size version of the plane.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple of times where like there's a bit where he gets in it and it starts moving and the wings kind of like wobble a little bit. And it's a bit like, don't know if they wobble that much. But it's really cool. And there's a funny story from the production of the movie about that full size version of it as well, where because they put a little like bike motor in it and they could drive it around.
That's amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah. So there's a day about them like going for like a little joyride on this thing and then like nearly crashing it and stuff and damaging it. So yeah.
Dude's rock.
It's clash. And there's a bit of trivia here. So the footage of the submarine rising through the pack ice, that is just directly cut from the movie Ice Station Zebra.
Holy shit, no way.
Which is mad. So that film was what, like 14 years prior? Yeah,
Bloody hell it was,
so that's really cool.
I'm going to have to do a credibility check on some of the naval aspects of this whole submarine operation, by the way. So I'm going to see if some of the things in the book are credible or non-credible.
So, as you mentioned earlier on, there's a second prototype of the plane, which is just the foreshadowing we need to know that the next thing they're going to do is get that second plane up in the air because it's the only plane that can hunt down and catch up with this plane. And they know this plane is lacking fuel, so we fuel everyone slightly more, it can go faster for longer and close the gap. So they do that, they get in the air. But before I talk too much about that, I need to talk about like the stealth planes in general. Should we do a little stealth plane chat?
Absolutely.
What it's all about is trying to minimize what's called the radar cross-section of something. And what governs the radar cross-section of, be it a plane, a warship, a helicopter, anything, it's a handful of factors. Basically, it's the size of something, the shape of something, the aspects that it is onto the radar that's looking for it.
Yeah.
And the material it's made from as well, basically. So really, really broad terms, things you want to avoid if you can, like ferrous metals, stuff that sound bounces off of, large flat surfaces, because from some aspects they'll be fine, but if you're dead onto it, it'll be a humongous signature comes back. So you kind of want to avoid large flat surfaces. You want many small flat surfaces, basically, to diffuse it in different directions. That's what you want. You don't want like very small detailed stuff on it. So if you look at like warships nowadays that are designed to have a small radar cross section, you'll see they look a bit like they've like a collection of, they look like a low poly model from a video game. Like it's lots of flat surfaces all pointing in different directions, but like the usual things you'd expect to see on the upper deck from like older ships you don't see. So you don't see like you don't see like a waist that you can walk up and down on often. Often it's entirely enclosed with like only the flight deck and aspects of the hangar.
Yeah, things like the Zumwalt class look like something from a like 1990s Amiga game.
Yeah,
because they're all just like we've got 5 polygons and we're getting
exactly that. So things like the cable deck up forward and back have to be like under the deck.
Yeah,
and then an enclosed space so that people walking around, cable fittings, winches, reels, like all that kind of stuff, all hidden behind like a flat surface. Vertical launch missile silos instead of like on deck missile silos that move around, so they'll be inside the deck and then fire up. The guns themselves, like a really easy example you can like easily Google is what used to be called the Crichton, the 4.5 gun on a Type 22 frigate. Was rounded, and then like later batches of Type 23s and onwards and Type 45s are like look like the head of Crichton from Red Dwarf. That's why they call them that, because they again like low poly in different directions. All that kind of stuff aids the radar cross section. So that's a really long way of saying that the Firefox is not a particularly stealthy aircraft based on its radar cross section. So the reason I know about this is I looked at I did some research and I found a really cool document of lectures from the US Naval Academy by a guy called A.E. Fuchs. And he was doing like a series of lectures on radar cross section for like naval aviators, engineers, and so on, as part of his Senko passage, I guess, like sensors and communications package of lectures and things. And now I haven't done Senko like in probably about 10 years. So a lot of this stuff was like, oh my God, my brain is frying just trying to understand all the maths, right? Because this is not my field of expertise, apart from like the very basic principles I just kind of explained there. But this goes into grave detail, looking at like the disposition of it, the fins, the wingspan, the shape of the cockpit, and critically, like the air intakes and exhaust for the engines. So, as an example, an F-35 Lightning II aircraft has a radar cross section which is about minus 30 decibels, which is, in layman's terms, because it's easier to imagine it based on like how big the object would be. If you imagine like the radar cross section is like big would the object look on a radar screen,
Yeah.
and like what object in real life it would equate to. So even though an F-35 Lightning B aircraft is pretty big, it has the radar cross section of 0.001 meters, approximately that of like a tennis ball.
Yeah.
Squared. The radar cross section of the Firefox's engine intakes alone, not the whole airframe, is 57 decibels, which means that if you do the conversion from decibels to meters squared, it's about 500,000 meters squared. Just based on like the shape and the materials and the disposition of it on the aircraft and all that kind of stuff, for that alone. I might have done the mathematical conversion wrong, but the fact alone is that just the air intakes on the Firefox are significantly worse than an entire F-35. So the other thing I was going to talk about is the Iranian F-313 Qaher aircraft. I'll put an image up on the video here so people at home can see what I'm talking about. But in 2013, there was an arms expo which Iran presented the first of its ever stealth aircraft. Iran's in a difficult spot in terms of developing its military because it hasn't got many friends, and the people that it is friends with also just steal designs from stuff, and they don't want to share them. So they presented this thing in 2013, and it got roundly ridiculed, I think.
Yeah.
Because everyone who looked at it said, "There's no way that thing is airworthy, and there's no way that is a manned aircraft." Because it was a lot smaller.
Yeah, it was tiny. I remember.
Than most stealth aircraft, exactly. And whilst the basic concepts, the idea of having smaller flat surfaces that go in a different direction, that kind of stuff, were there, it just looked like it wasn't strong enough an airframe to be able to get into the air, maneuver, and go at the speeds it was purporting to go at as well. So flash forward to save face, what they kind of then went on to do was then say, actually, right, it's not meant to be a manned aircraft. It's actually meant to be an unmanned aircraft. It's meant to be a drone. Okay. But again, if you look at most drones now, because you haven't got the burden of having to make it into a cockpit with somebody inside, you can change the shape of it entirely, get rid of all that. So if you look at a Reaper drone or a Predator drone, they're very similar. There's what looks like a cockpit, kind of, almost, and that is rounded at the end, at the forward end. That's where the sensor package goes. And the rest of that entire frame is there to provide, like, there is some electronics in there and stuff, but it's also mainly to be an airworthy frame to get this thing up so it can go on its incredibly long missions at high altitudes and just float around doing its ISR. So the Qaher, by comparison, stuck to its shape pretty much. So, but they've made it smaller still, and there's a video that I'll probably put on again so people can look at that down below if I figure out how to embed that during this, of the Qaher now as it currently is, doing a launch from a carrier. What they do is they have an annual maritime military exercise for the IRGCN, the Iranian Republican Guard Corps Navy, IRGCN. And what they do is they get all their small fast attacker craft, like sort of the Hendongens, the Hudongs, the Jamarans, all that stuff. Yeah. Get them all out, driving together, firing off missiles, blah, 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 blah. And then they end the thing normally by having a large wooden aircraft carrier that they build, and they tow it out to like somewhere south of like Bandar Abbas or something, and then they blow it up. Bandar Abbas is like an island that's like not that far away from the UAE, so it's kind of easy to be seen. What they do is they throw it out there and then they blow it up at the end of it as a big show of force to say, look, we could destroy an aircraft carrier with these rockets, but like it's made of wood, it can't move, it hasn't got a layered defense system. It's just like it's the Wicker Man.
It's the Wicker Man. Yes.
There's a next generation stealth drone. There it goes.
I mean, this film we're discussing now also makes some pretty egregious use of remote controlled aircraft in terms of the little helicopter taking off from the ship and then getting destroyed. You know,
once it goes, just pops.
The little remote control, which pissed me off because there was no navalized Hinds, like naval aviation helicopter for the Russians, but for whatever reason they just made a remote controlled helicopter, like they made one look like one of the really early model Hinds with the kind of boxy cockpit before it went to the little kind of bubble canopy thing.
So the second Firefox is in the air. He's caught up with Gant, and they have a bit of a dogfight through the mountains. What did you think of like this sequence, like how it looks and how it kind of felt to watch?
It wasn't especially thrilling. It was all right, but it was like there was obviously a massive influence of like the Death Star trench run in like the way it was made and stuff. The book has the face-off presented better. There's a cool bit when Gant has complete loss of control and goes into a flat spin and nearly crashes. In the film, it doesn't feel like there's like super high stakes,
No.
but it's just not gripping. I don't know, maybe I loved the espionage end of it and the bleak miserableness of the whole spying sequences.
So there's two things that I think are wrong with the dogfight. So as I mentioned earlier, I watched Top Gun Maverick, and not long after I watched this movie. There's a handful of things that film does that this one doesn't, and maybe that's because it's a different kind of movie. It's a different kind of story it's trying to tell.
Yeah.
But in that movie, it's incredibly clear throughout its entire runtime precisely what the stakes are for everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly what they're trying to do. Gives you really clear geography of the entire area. It's like it's drilled into you. These guys have to fly under this mountain. If they go over this altitude, they'll get attacked by SAMs. They've got to do this one run where they go up this really, really steep bit, and they've got to throw upside down, and they've got to right themselves, and they've got to fire a missile. That's miracle number 2, all that stuff. But as soon as they've popped up over the top there, regardless of their success of their run forward, that's it. They're in the SAMs. The 5th generation fighters are going to intercept them. Combat air patrols are going to pick them up. All that stuff. So it's really clear at laying down exactly what the stakes are for the entirety of that. So when it does happen in the movie, everything that's happening, you knew was going to happen already. So you start hearing like missile tone. You start seeing the sound as far as missiles, and you're like, none of this is surprising. This is exactly what I knew was going to happen. We've been talking about it time and time again. So boom, we knew that was going to happen. Cool. And to layer it, and just to hammer it in home, they cut back to the ops room of the carrier, where they're also monitoring the picture there, and they are also adding additional commentary there.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The second thing that this movie fails at, I think, compared to Top Gun Maverick, which I think nails it in terms of, that was geography, I'd say, and this one is commentary. So, as I mentioned earlier, Clint Eastwood spends the entire movie kind of talking to himself in quite a calm, kind of low level, just kind of vaguely conversational tone about what he's doing. Like, okay, now I've got to head up north now and just now I've got to go and land and refuel. Now I've got to head on home, and this guy's behind me. I better get into a dogfight now. And it's just like, okay. I'm like, so you're pretty calm. I'm pretty calm. I'm not thrilled. I'm not excited. Like, nothing's going on. What Top Gun Maverick nails is that because they're using F-18 Hornets and they have a weapon systems operator behind them and a pilot up forward, there's always 2 people in there, and 2 people means there's dialogue, so they can talk to each other what's going on. So they're giving each other what you could easily dismiss as like just routine reports for teamwork operating an aircraft together, but all the story is being delivered by their tone of voice when they're doing it.
Yeah.
You've got like, well, Maverick is always on his own. Don't know why, but you've got his son Rooster.
Yeah.
Is piloting, and he has a weapon system up behind him, and they always have like, we got tone, and like firing flares, and like, they're always singing exactly what they're doing. It's coming in from behind. Oh, we got 2 more of them. They're coming in now. Oh, bogey's coming in hard. And it's like shit's happening. Shit's happening.
Yeah,
and you're constantly getting that feed of like, and it's just like there's flares flying, there's people flying around, there's missiles going off, and people are going splash one, bogey coming down, weapons hot, slam eye, slam. Well, I don't think they say slam eye, but they should be saying slam eye because they've seen a missile visually. But yeah, they're using like brevity code words. They're yelling at each other what's going on, and like it's all going off. Whereas this is like
it's class. It's like cockpit resource management, but make it sexy.
And it's chaos, and whereas I think by comparison, Firefox is like almost ballistical. It's almost like because the effects don't look, they haven't got the verisimilitude. You don't really believe they're in that bit of airspace. Yeah. They're like superimposed on. And they're moving in a bit of an unnatural way. There's one weird kind of 5th generation J turn that one of the manages, which sort of defies physics against like the backdrop behind them. But the clouds that are being projected behind them are sped up video, so that already looks a little bit unnatural. So that your mind your uncanny valley for that has already been sort of tricked off.
Yeah.
Because he's so calm, and because the music is isn't really like the music again is this weird spongy 80s synth stuff that Maurice Jarre's doing. Like the whole thing doesn't feel like tense. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of stakes going on.
Yeah, doesn't.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then finally, like I said earlier, like it ends with that use the force, Luke, and he fires like a missile, and that's from his like cannon, and then that kills it.
Like fires a missile backwards, and it's because he's got to just think in Russian to fire it backwards, and it's like and I mean the book again, it's not great. I mean, it's very much a kind of like reformer kind of, and I mean that in terms of military doctrine and not in terms of the political company. I mean party, in terms of the idea that like, you know, these like people with these weird like reformer opinions, like things like, oh well, beyond visual range engagements are never gonna happen. It's got to be dogfighting with cannons and like short range IR missiles and stuff. It's just it's not great, not especially cool, and I don't know, man. It's like, it feels like they didn't really have enough budget to make it a really exciting, you know, if they'd thrown more money at it, more special effects, more everything, maybe a bit more maximal kind of thing. And like you said, with the storytelling, if there was something other than him going, oh, now I'm going to fire this missile backwards, there we go.
There you go, boom, it's done.
Kind of thing, yeah.
I get that.
And
I think the other thing it misses out on, so this differs from Top Gun. So Top Gun's never had this. Another thing you could do here is you've got two identical planes. So, you know, what's the thing that differentiates them? It's the man in the seat.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been hearing this entire movie that Mitchell Gant is the only guy who can fly this plane. He's the best the US has got. Is the top guy in the aggressor squadron. He is the best pilot out there. So why do they not make more of the fact that you've got a second pilot using the same plane? And he was like, obviously this guy is like super competitive. Yeah. There's only two Russian pilots who can fly these planes. One of them's been killed. He's now the best that Russia has. Enormous amount of pressure. He's doing this one. If he gets this, if he gets Mitchell Gant down and prevents this plane making it to the west, he should get like the Order of Lenin, right?
Yeah,
he's like a hero. He's a hero of the party. He's a hero of the USSR. So like, you know, he's got a lot riding on him, but we don't know anything about him. We don't really know anything about him. We have like. We know more, actually, ironically, about the original pilot who gets bumped off. Yeah. So I feel like if they'd made more of the stakes between these two pilots and showed us the other side of the Iron Curtain about how those guys are doing, instead of just rooms with KGB agents just delivering exposition, if we had some character work with these two pilots, you know, and their relationship and how much they care about this plane, then there would have been some stakes in that dogfight, but there weren't any.
Yeah. The book expands on the pilot that's fighting him as this, because the pilot becomes like a POV character briefly during the fight, and in his inner monologue he's kind of contemplating the fact that although he's got a lot of technical experience, the only war fighting he's done is when he was seconded to the Egyptians in the 6-Day War. It's like Gant's this like absolute Vietnam snake eater who's done everything and he can fly anything.
So getting to Vietnam was good, actually. It's actually really good for us. It helps out the Cold War overall, actually, in a way we weren't even expecting it to. So how good was that, actually?
Actually, we were completely right. We were totally right to go in Vietnam, because this incredibly non-credible scenario could happen when a guy who's really good at flying MiG-21s, which were already archaic-ish by this point, is going to be totally suited to fly in this plane that basically comes from space, right?
Yeah, and then the movie just ends. So like, so he fires a rearward missile, blows up the guy, and he's like, "Okay, Uncle Sam, I'm coming home," and then just ends. Roll credits. There's no ending.
Yeah, wild. You know what? The book. Do you know how the book ends, man?
I know how the next book begins, but go on.
The book ends as abruptly as the film. Yeah. Except at least it says, "Oh well, I'm gonna head home by flying towards like Stockholm, then getting in the wake of a British Airways flight from Stockholm to London. Then I'm going to land. Off I go now. Bye."
Okay, guys. Let's just take a little break there, and we'll come back for some categories. Okay, welcome back. So, categories. We'll start as always. We do with casting, and casting on this movie is crazy. This movie is replete with that guys. Not many ladies, but a lot of that guys.
So there's more ladies in the film than there are in the book, by the way. It is one of those 1970s thrillers where it's like, no. Just the boys, just the dudes, just guys being dudes, guys dying in the Soviet Union, just guys being guys being miserable, guys eating borscht, guys getting beaten to death by the KGB. Men will get beaten to death in KGB interrogations rather than go to therapy.
So the first guy here. So some of these people I would say don't count as that guys. This first one is Freddie Jones. I mentioned him earlier on. He plays Kenneth Aubrey, the SIS guy. Not that guy, but he's a stalwart of British cinema, television and stage. He was in Krull. Had to get that up there straight away. He plays Ynur in Krull. He is Bites in The Elephant Man, so like the carnival caller, horrible guy in that. He's Thutha Hawat in Dune, 1984.
Yeah.
And he's also in Wild at Heart. Plays a guy called George Kovich. So that's 3 David Lynch films this guy's in.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing, right?
Also, his TV work, he was in Heartbeat.
Yes, he was in Heartbeat.
He was in Heartbeat. I've got to say something, man. This is the one thing that's always on my mind. I remember the pilot episode of Heartbeat had full frontal nudity.
Really?
Pilot episode of Heartbeat had full frontal nudity.
Our memories of Heartbeat are wildly different.
Yeah, big old, like.
But it was Claude Greengrass.
Yeah, no. What was it? It was the main guy's missus. Full frontal nudity in the pilot episode of Heartbeat.
Nev.
Remember what they took from you. Remember what they took from us, Mike.
What's her name? Cusack. Jesus, wow. Neve Cusack? Freddie Jones also appeared in DL and Pasco, which is a British cop drama. But I mentioned that because Warren Clark is our next guy, who plays Pavel Upinskoy. We've talked about it a few times already. He's known probably most, especially to our American contingent, probably known most as Dim in A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
He's also in Top Secret with Val Kilmer, and he's also Scar in Hawk the Slayer. So
holy shit!
So if you don't like Hawk the Slayer, okay, Dad, let's give Krull a try.
I actually feel remiss for not realizing that he was in Hawk the Slayer.
Yeah, he's also in the Warren Beatty, Dustin Hoffman famous flop Ishtar as well.
Yeah, he was in an episode of Lewis.
Yep, he was. I've got some more. He was in the Alec Guinness Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He was in Coronation Street, and then here's some proper 1970s like standard stable of acting jobs. He was in the Anedon Line, the Sweeney, Z Cars, but then lastly he was in the remake, not the original, the remake of Poldark, the one with the hot dwarf from The Hobbiton.
Hot dwarf.
I forgot. Everyone knows who we're talking about.
Small legs McSexyman, the hot dwarf from The Hobbit.
Why does it hurt so much? Because it was real. Yeah, no.
Was Oren the one who's meant to be sexy? No, one of
the pretty one. Right, not the handsome one, the pretty one.
The one who was
Feely or something, or Geely or.
So it was Philly and Killy was one of them.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah. Was he the guy who was in Being Human?
Yes, and he was in.
Yes, he played the vampire in Being Human.
Aidan Turner, who played Killy.
There we go.
Right. Next guy.
Sorry, fucking that guy's. I'm totally wild now in tangents. I think it's insane that we almost had a Hobbit trilogy when Jedward played Philly and Killy.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, I'm not happy with the one we got, but that would have been worse probably.
I mean, may I present you Jedward playing Philly and Killy and Tom Waits doing the voice of Smaug?
I would have taken Tom Waits doing the voice of Smaug. Easily.
We could have had that. Guillermo del Toro wanted Jedward as Philly and Killy, and he wanted Tom Waits to do the voice of Smaug.
Do you think he'd met Jedward by that point? Or do you think that was like...
I really don't know.
Or he just observed them from afar and was like, that can't be real, but I love their energy.
I think he's like, I've got to get these guys, but I will need a really big stick to use on them. Like constantly, because they'd be like, I'm Philly, I'm Killy, and together we're Jedward. Yeah, I'd imagine
Oh my-
Tom Waits having to keep them in line and make them shut up, like, shut up, kid.
Stop improvising. Stick to the script. Don't go off book.
Script.
Yeah.
You goddamn kids. I'm gonna go down to the junkyard and play some sheet metal.
What's he building in there?
What's he directing in there? What the hell's he directing in there?
It's certainly not a novella for the kids. Next, that guy is my favourite, Ronald Lacey, who plays the scientist Smelovsky. Far and away, the most famous for his role is Major Turt in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Gestapo guy. Also, however, was in the Peter Weller amazing movie, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. And he was also Ekol in Red Sonja. But did you know he was also uncredited as Heinrich Himmler in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Holy shit, no way, man.
Yeah, so there's a bit, so obviously the book burning sequence where Indy accidentally gets the Grail diary signed by Hitler. He's there in the background for like a couple of shots.
No. That's amazing.
Comedy fans, probably primarily United Kingdom comedy fans, will also know him as the baby-eaten Bishop of Bath and Wells from Blackadder 2. Yeah.
Yes!
He's great.
Incredible scenes.
We have another Indiana Jones connection. So the next one is Wolf Kala, who plays KGB chairman Andropov. He is one of the main Nazis in Raiders who gets his head exploded at the end. He's also a Nazi general in Band of Brothers, and he delivers like a really good speech towards the end of it where the Germans are surrendering, and he gives a speech to his own troops about the nobility of surrendering and being brothers in arms and all that kind of stuff. He also played Arno Schwimmer in The Boys from Brazil, and he played not a Nazi but a German commander in Wonder Woman with that terrible Zionist and overly bad actor Gal Gadot. Just had to stick one in the ribs there while I had the opportunity. Next, that guy, I've got so many, mate. Nigel Hawthorne plays Peter Barovich. We mentioned him already. Most famous for his portrayal is in The Madness of King George, but also primarily his role as Sir Humphrey Appleby in Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. Might be more famous to Americans as Dr. Raymond Cocteau in Demolition Man. But his career's been all over the place. He was in Dad's Army. He was in Warship Down. He was in Gandhi. He also had an uncredited role as an insurance man passerby in Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. I've got a couple left. Hugh Fraser was also in this as one of the Russians, known to many as Captain Hastings in the long-running Poirot series of films for ITV. He also appeared in many of the Sharp films as well as the Duke of Wellington, taking over from David Troughton. But fans of our niche Tom Clancy thrillers will also definitely know him as that rat bastard Watkins in Patriot Games.
Yes, it's all connected.
It's all connected. He also had a tiny role in Ridley Scott's first film, The Duelists, which I think is an amazing film and everyone should watch. Final two, we've got Kenneth Colley, who played Colonel Kontarski, as you mentioned, Admiral Piet from Star Wars.
Yes,
that's Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. He's also played Jesus in Monty Python's The Life of Brian.
Isn't it?
We have John Ratzenberger, who's one of the US submariners. Obviously Cliff from Cheers, the pig in Toy Story, Ham. And he also had a small role in The Empire Strikes Back as well, in the Battle of Hoth. And then finally, Clive Merrison, who plays Major Lanyev. He was a headmaster in The History Boys, but also he's Mark Corrigan's dad in Peep Show. So on the Christmas special, he's the one who's like, cauliflower is traditional.
Incredible.
So that is it. That's
a stacked cast. What a stacked cast, man.
Yeah, amazing.
In incredible scenes.
Do you have any more that I might have missed or anything?
To be honest, I think you've hit everyone that I was going to even reference.
Quotes from the movie. Have you got any favourite quotes?
Yeah, so my favourite one was, "Don't say anything. Your words would be useless, maybe even insulting. Just fly the damn plane." I think it's brilliant.
That's good. That's Warren Clark's character, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. In the book, it's very similar as well. There's only a few words different. But Pavel has no illusions of anything good coming of this. Even though the plane's going to get taken away in the end, Pavel's still going to have a bleak end, Yeah. But just fly the plane, man. Just, whatever. And he's fine with that. He's at peace with it. He's like, he is one of the Force, and the Force is one of him. Like,
he has a kind of a resigned attitude to like how he lives his life. There's a similar quote that kind of matches that, which is it's when they're driving in the van still, and he's like they're having a conversation, and he says, "Fighting City Hall, as you put it, is a freedom we do not enjoy."
Yeah, that's
which
brilliant.
is really similar kind of thing of like, look, this is just my lot in life. We're going to do this thing, and I'm probably going to die horribly. But
yeah,
what precedes that is Major Gant's one, which is, don't you Jews ever get tired of fighting City Hall? There's a one that I really like, which is, I think it says on IMDb it's Buckles, but I wasn't sure about that. I thought it was, yeah, maybe that's right. There's a quote that sounds a bit like, you know, in the 1931 Frankenstein movie, where he's electric shocked, and then the Dr. Frankenstein's like, he's alive! He's alive!
Yeah.
By God, he's alive!
Yeah.
Now I know what it feels like to be God! You know, that bit.
Yes.
There's a bit like that, which it's like rhythmically kind of quotes it, where the RAF operator is like, "Sir, radar tracking reports signs of a staggered sector scramble. Northern and Southern border squadrons, Red Air Force, heavily coded traffic between the Red Banner fleets. Activity indicates a definite liftoff." And then the guy's like, "He's up, great mother of God, he's up!
Yeah.
Now I know what it feels like to be great mother of God." I love that. So that's a cool little nod to like classic cinema.
When Gant's meeting Bronovich, and Bronovich like, "Do you smoke?" He's like, "No, not for years." Dr. Bronovich throws a pack of cigarettes onto the table. "Learn again now." It's like the whole thing, right? The whole film has this air of absolute Slavic misery over it.
And they're the best bits.
They are the best bits. They're brilliant.
When the light cracks in through the gaps, like stars puncturing the dark bleak night, it's when it's at its worst. Like the last lines of the movie is Gant, and he says, talking to himself, "Punching in the coordinates, I'm coming home," and it's like, that's so shit. Yeah. I liked it way better when everyone was miserable.
Yeah, like it's like, learn to smoke, dickhead. You know, listen, dude, we're in a miserable totalitarian state that grinds down the bodies, minds, and souls of all its citizens. Smoke him if you got him. He has a pack of 20 fines. I want to see 3 of those disappear in the next 7 minutes, mate. You know, you need to get a 20-a-day habit instantly, right? Like now. You know, do it for America.
Needle drops. There isn't really a needle drop. There's
no.
So I alluded to it, there's Maurice Jarre's score, which is not his career best work. But I felt like a terrible traitor for thinking that, because I love film music and I love Maurice Jarre's scores in other movies, as I mentioned. But Maurice Jarre himself had this to say about the movie. He said, referencing his score, "Clint Eastwood is an interesting man, very nice, very charming, but he does not understand too much about music and film," Jarre said. "He's a fan of jazz. On his latest picture, he does his own music. It sounds like putting him down. It sounds like putting him down, but it's not that. He likes sound effects, but not music. It was not one of his best pictures. Not a good film. I like the man. Absolutely adorable. No temper. I enjoyed very much working with him, but the film was not interesting from the music point of view." So
I'm just getting mentally flashbanged by the first time I watched Gran Torino, and just like the song at the end of it.
And now, like, Gran Torino.
You smoke too hard, you bitch too hard. You smoke too deep, they'll kill you. Clint Eastwood.
That movie solved racism. We haven't got racism anymore because of that movie. So
I did. You know what?
Gran Torino and Green Book fixed it.
Gran Torino solved racism by Clint Eastwood, showing him that it's absolutely woke to call your best friend Polish slurs. Hey, you dumb Pollock!
IMDb trivia. For Craig Thomas's 1983, only the year after, sequel to Firefox, the novel Firefox Down, is dedicated to Clint Eastwood. And the dedication reads, "For Clint Eastwood, pilot of the Firefox."
Yeah.
The original plan for the movie was to use a Swedish JA-37 Viggen jet fighter as a Soviet aircraft, but the Swedish government refused permission, which is why they had to design their own.
Oh man, I love the Viggen. Give me a moment. Yeah,
I'll put a picture of one up for that.
There it is.
Because his role in the movie required him to speak some Russian, Clint Eastwood prepared by studying the language resources provided by the US military's Defense Language Institute. I don't know if they were tapes or books, but obviously all the Russians were cowboys. So
yeah, or how long he studied them for. I mean, he studied them briefly. It's like he was aware of their existence. I mean, his Russian's still probably better than mine. But the cowboy accent, though, was great. Can't believe no one said unknown technology, bliat. Yeah.
We've already mentioned the foxhound that got stolen and flown to Japan.
Yeah.
In this movie, General Vladimirov assures the first secretary no pilot will risk the Moscow defenses, however invisible he might be, to explain why Gant isn't flying over Moscow. However, on the May 28th, 1987, so 5 years later...
The Cessna guy.
Yes, young German pilot flew his Cessna into Soviet airspace, landed on Red Square, and then was arrested. Amazing.
When I saw that bit, I was like, hold on. Chronologically, how many years is it until some random German dude decides to do the funniest thing? Do you think like this like a German lad watching the cinema and he's like, challenge accepted?
I really wanted Sanya to be here so we could talk about how this would have went down in Germany, and then we were going to bring this up. Back to the Future, Part 2. The opening cloud shots were originally used for this movie. And then finally, the Firefox rolls over the same guard twice when it's blasting its way out of the hangar. So I might see if I can find that and put some video of that down there as well. Brilliant.
Yes, definitely.
Right. Before we do Notes on the Peanut Gallery, I was going to talk about ML Qaher, MD Qaher, and MH Qaher for this movie. Primarily so I can talk about the ML Qaher, which has already been written for us. There's a sequel to this called Firefox Down. So the plot picks up immediately from the end of this. But what happens is he punches in his coordinates, he's heading back home, but it turns out that his aircraft had sustained a load of damage during the fight. So he has to land it again. He lands on a frozen lake in neutral Finland, whereupon the weight of the aircraft causes it to break through the ice, and then it sinks into the lake. And then, because God forbid this guy flies a plane for the first like 3/4 of a Firefox novel. So he gets out the lake, but then he's immediately captured by the KGB. He's taken back to the Soviet Union, rendering the entire last movie irrelevant. And then a NATO task force steps up, attempts to recover the Firefox from Finland before its location be discovered by the Soviets. Meanwhile, we cut to Moscow. In Moscow, Gant is interrogated by the KGB, now by Colonel Dmitry Prabin, who had a minor role in Firefox. And there's a Soviet Air Force general, that guy we saw in the movie. So they're interrogating him. But it turns out the entire time that the head of the KGB has a girlfriend called Anna, who is this entire time CIA double agent, going by the name Burgoyne. Basically, a load of stuff happens, and they do recover the plane from the lake, and Gant does escape. He steals what's he steal? An Mi-24 helicopter, and then is pursued by MiGs into Norway. Manages to land, and then eventually heads to RAF Scampton. At the end of it, and that's where it ends. It ends with them getting to RAF Scampton, which is crazy. RAF Scampton, by the way, for listeners who are not aware, is the home. Well, was the home of the Red Arrows. It was also the home of the Dam Buster Squadron as well. Now it's up for sale on the open market, and as of the 1st of last month, planned a £42 million plan to make it into homes for asylum seekers fell through. So it's just sitting there, having had a lot of money spent on it, but not gone anywhere. So interesting. Anyway, MD Qaher, rewind. He hasn't sustained massive damage. He isn't going to land in Finland. What he's going to do instead is he's going to refuel. He's going to do the thing that they're expecting the least and head to the east. And he manages to skirt his way along the top of the Barents Sea, having already made prior arrangements to defect to the Far East, to China, where he delivers the plane. And the Chinese and the Russians together have the new super modern thought-controlled Firefox aircraft, and then the balance of power shifts like 20 years too early to China as the now dominating military and economic power in the world. Boom.
Holy fuck.
MH Qaher?
So very difficult to kind of get something, any kind of hilarity, basically out of this film, and I love it for it. I love the fact that you can't really get jokes out of this film so much. I mean, it's like kind of you can't like drag comedy out of Rogue One, can you? You can't like make a joke about. I mean, at least like I feel like the episodes of Andor had a few things you can make a little bit.
The robot's funny.
Yeah. But also he's horribly like everyone else does.
Yeah.
But it's like, so the only way really to get any kind of hilarity out of this is to work from here. Mitchell Gant is approached by the US government in Alaska/California. They come and find him in Kalafasca, and Alaskafornia, and he freaks out. He has this whole, oh my God, I'm having flashbacks to napalm and people dying and burned to death and stuff. And he spends the rest of the film basically just lying on the floor, just like twitching and having like horrendous flashbacks. The US government goes to plan B. So while he's having this horrendous set of confabulations in which he fantasizes about himself going to Russia and stealing the plane and everything like that, the US government simply goes to plan B and says, right, we're actually just going to announce that we know the existence of Firefox. I'm just going to say there's like a $50 million bounty to any pilot who's going to defect with it. I mean, precedent for that, because a Soviet pilot defected with advanced Soviet fighter plane without the promise of money and a job for Lockheed Martin. So the US government very happily put out this like big statement. We will pay $50 million to anyone who flies the Firefox to the US. And indeed, you get the whole Buchholz scene when he's like, oh my God, multiple launches. He's airborne. Whoever's stolen it's airborne. Yet the Firefox is not seen. Firefox not go to America. The next day, the headlines are ablaze. News is going nuts. Someone stumped up $51 million. The Principality of Andorra now has a Firefox. Andorra becomes the world's leading superpower with its fighter plane, with its anti-radar technology. It's now a tripolar world, right? It's the Soviets, it's NATO, and it's motherfucking Andorra. But wait, where is the second Firefox? Well, is it, man? I got one word for you, buddy: Luxembourg.
I was going to say, but if we could link this in with the Princess Diaries universe, the Princess Diaries cinematic universe, and Genovia gets the second Firefox. Genovia, the land I call my home. Yeah. Oh God. And then Anne Hathaway decides that she wants to become a fighter pilot. So we have. Or better yet, a young, like, obviously it's because it's 1980s, Julie Andrews as Queen Clarice Rinaldi. That's it. With Hector Alonso as a co-pilot.
And just from then on out, the true Cold War is just between two little European principalities.
Andorra and Genovia.
Everybody else is now a bystander. Everybody's nuclear arsenals, the mean dick, because Andorra and Genovia have the world's two greatest, most anti-radarist fighters ever.
God. Amazing.
Good grief.
What do you think is the most egregious oversell of the military-industrial complex in this movie? Obviously, it's the plane, but like how, I guess.
Oversells of it. The anti-radar is a gigantic oversell for a start.
The fact that it just works.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It defies physics.
Yeah. The fact that the weird combination of oversell and undersell, the fact that the plane doesn't appear to have normal flare dispensers, but also then when it does have countermeasures, it has the whole tail section that it partially jettisons and creates a flare like hotter than the sun in the boot. And it's like, just have flares, dude.
Distraction shaft.
You know,
exists, yeah.
Yeah, like, so that's it.
Counter the military missile threat.
Yeah, oversell, undersell. I need to find out if this is a credible oversell or not. Mike, credible or non-credible?
Okay.
The submarine, the Mother One submarine that refuels the Firefox, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's forward torpedo rooms and forward crew compartments have been sealed and flooded with aviation fuel so that they can fuel up the plane when it lands. Credible or not?
Okay. I'd have to know more about the submarine's makeup, but I would generally say that if you were to... Right, so submarines in any craft, right? Hinges on the principles of what we call ship tech, right? Ship stability. Yeah. And that's governed by the opposing forces of buoyancy and gravity and what's called the metacenter. So that's how things act on the surface. So that's how ships and stuff act on the surface. And then with that, you have like the longitudinal stability and the latitudinal stability. So how much it rocks backwards and forwards, how much it rocks side to side. Kind of that. When I say stability, I don't mean how much it rocks. I mean how much. Sorry, what? If you were to apply healing moment to something, so if you turn it like on its side like that, how much it wants to right itself again. So how much buoyancy opposes the gravity. If those forces are exactly equal, so it's neutrally buoyant, and the metacenter basically is exactly the same point as the center for gravity, what will happen is you'll move like that, and then it won't want to correct itself. And then
Yeah.
if you tip it over and it capsizes, it'll just stay like that. If the metacenter is opposite, let's say you've raised the center of gravity above the metacenter, so you've put a lot of weight up high, or you've removed weight from below, then it will actually naturally want to correct itself and go upside down, and it will want to capsize. Most times, all the time, what we're looking for is to have a center of gravity that's a reasonable position, but the metacenter significantly high above it, so that if it has a healing moment, it'll correct itself. And the more violently it does that, even though it might feel unstable at the time, the more violently it does that, the bigger the roll is. That's actually being more stable, because it wants to correct itself more and quicker. Right.
Got you.
So that's how things act on the surface. So that's one thing, okay? Now, I'm not a submariner, so I don't know too much about ship tech for under the sea, right? Okay. But the other thing you got to think about, this applies to on the surface as well, actually, just as you do with latitudinal stability. Another thing that you need to do here is you want to have your center of gravity be along the center line of the vessel. You want to have that weight distributed evenly, so that when you apply a healing movement to something, it corrects upright where it's designed to be, because that's most efficient for how it wants to drive. So ships are designed to be longitudinally, like, very stable, so they have a pointy front end, so they can cut through the sea, and then they're very good at keeping, like, stability, directional stability. So if you power them ahead, they want to keep going in the direction you powered them in. And then when you move your rudder, it'll go in that direction. When you correct the rudder, it'll keep going in the direction you put it in. That's what it's designed to do, okay? The other thing you want to do is you want to have the weight evenly across the ships, the thwart ships, so that you don't have what's called a condition of lull. So so you don't have it sitting naturally, like, at an angle. So let's say you've got some heavy stores here, you're causing this side to go down, and this side has to come up to compensate because of buoyancy and mass. That's inefficient, because now one of your props is probably sticking out the water a little bit, or is not in the right place. You've got other forces acting down here. The drag is different, so now the ship naturally wants to turn a little bit. So you're having to counteract that. So you're using more fuel because you're trying to counteract something, and then it's less efficient. So that's why you don't want to do that. But also, it's not stable. And if you were to flood this a bit more, the chances of the metacenter meeting on a funny skew angle and tipping over are higher. The chances you've got a greater chance of capsizing it in that way. Okay, so that's bad. The other one is, this is our ship still, this is forward, this is aft, is you want these to be trimmed evenly as well, as per how they were designed. Because again, if you are digging like this, then these aren't getting as much power, they're pushing you down whilst the ship wants to go up again. So you're getting more resistance from the sea than you would be up forward. It's shipping more sea over the top of it. This is all very bad, it's all very inefficient. And then conversely, if it's trimmed aft, and again the ship is sticking out a little bit, then again the hull isn't doing as it was designed to do, and you'll have a similar situation with water shipping over the back end, or again more inefficient use of you'll have a loss of directional stability as well, and all those kind of things. To your question, those compartments were designed to operate at a certain kind of weight, and the weight distribution across the craft is designed to be that way for a reason. That said, warships and ships generally are also designed to be able to partially flood. But the way that's done, we have what we call carpet plots in the Royal Navy for what combination of compartments on the ship will that you can withstand flooding before we do what I talked about earlier on, which was taking your center of gravity and your metacenter and swapping them over. It is worse to add weight high. It is worse to have compartments that are on or immediately below the waterline flood. It is better to flood the compartments lower. So if I had, let's say I've got a ship that's got like 6 decks below the waterline and like 2, maybe 4 above. Let's say sneaky Iranians put like a limpet mine on the side of it. It's a big merchant ship. Put a limpet mine on the side, but it's at the waterline because they've come up on a jet ski and they've banged one on and they've zoomed away again. And I've got a hole just below the waterline and it's taking in water and I'm flooding like 2 deck. Okay?
Yeah.
It is infinitely better. It almost negates the whole thing if I drain that water down to like 6 deck into like where the bilge is down on 6 deck.
Right.
Because you drain your water down to a deeper and a narrower compartment, because if it's deeper, the weight of it has less impact. Basically, because you'll bring your center of gravity down where it should be instead of up. Up is bad.
That makes sense.
Down is good. Okay, and narrower because you want to avoid something that's called a free surface. Okay, so a free surface flood. If you think about your bathtub, like at home, and you start jostling the water backwards and forwards, because that water's sloshing backwards and forwards, you'll start getting like waves forming. and then the frequency of those waves will change as they hit off against each other. And then what's happening is this bathtub now in your otherwise stable house is really unstable. So, like, if you think about having one compartment like that in a ship, basically what you're doing now is bringing it back to, again, the metacenter and the interaction between the metacenter and the center for gravity and stuff. Is now you have this one weird bit where the energy is going backwards and forwards, and it's not dissipating, and it's because the ship is rocking as well. So every time the ship rocks, it's going with it. But now in this other small space, it's banging backwards and forwards and stuff. You're now going. It's like it wants to go this way, but instead of naturally going back this way, there's another bit of reverberation in this compartment that's banging it back this way again, and then that way, and it can't catch a break, and it's just like all over the place, and it's just wobbly, and then that's really unstable, and that can cause a condition of capsize as well. So that's really bad. So that's why you want to render compartments solid by completely filling them up. So that effect isn't there anymore. Now it's just a dead weight, and you want to put it in a deeper, narrower compartment to minimize the effects. The other thing you can do is you could put a false bulkhead. You can like break that up. So by halving that compartment's size, you quarter the effect, because now instead of one big effect happening backwards and forwards in this big compartment, you've got two way smaller effects happening in the same place, and that basically brings it down by a quarter. And that is quick maths. But yeah, back to the submarine. So I say all that because ships are designed to be able to withstand flooding of compartments, and it's designed in really big handfuls, so you can, whilst it's happening, whilst you're dealing with an internal battle, go, right, I can afford to lose that compartment. And the assumption is that compartment is from deck to deck head completely gone, lost, full, sealed.
That's what the book suggests. Yeah, they're being completely flooded. The forward torpedo room and the forward crew quarters.
So I don't know enough about that particular class of submarine to say whether or not, and I wouldn't be able to find that kind of information. And I'm sure it's probably like somewhere in books in Annapolis or Jane's, but Jane's wouldn't have it in. Jane's wouldn't have it in. Mate. It's not civvy knowledge. All right, these are like classified ships drawings. So I couldn't tell you specifically for that class of submarine, but what I can tell you is it's unlikely for a compartment that large to be crew quarters to be able to withstand a complete rendering solid without a significant impact on its ability to trim itself as a submarine. Obviously, both those compartments are up forward. Could you do it? Difficult, I think, to safely do that. Could the boat remain stable on the surface of the water doing that? I highly doubt it. Without having an unstoppable condition of lull. Can you trim it forward or aft? You'd have to do some serious moving of stuff around, and counterweighting would be the thing I would suggest. So you can make the whole boat heavier by counterweighting the back to make up for it. That's something you could do. But at that point, is the boat able to surface and smash through the Arctic ice? Again, I don't know. So they're the things I'd be concerned about. The second thing, AVCAT. Jesus Christ, mate. So AVCAT is so incredibly flammable. The modifications you'd need to make to be able to pump that into the boat securely, just the fumes alone are an issue. Like, how you get it out of that compartment as well. So there's a lot of like refitting of the boats to do that. Feels like to me, I mean, Jesus, what do you do instead? Like, do you tow like a big fuel tanker behind you, something like that?
That's what I was thinking. Just like tow it, or have some kind of big bladder of it, I guess, on the outside of the submarine.
That's an option. I think, towing a partially submerged body. So essentially, the submarine makes it like 90% of the way on its own steam, picks it up at the last minute from a ship nearby, and then Foxtrot Oscar to the rendezvous with it on the surface. That would be what I would think would be the most sensible way of doing it. But interesting.
Because I mean, basically, obviously, the guy who was the technical consultant, I guess, on the book, was a guy called Terry Jones, who was an RAF guy.
Right, okay.
And so I think it's clear that he wasn't like a Navy guy, with the fact that we've just got this incredibly dangerous setup of a nuclear submarine partially full of some of the most volatile aviation fuel.
This is 1980s as well. This is like a time where you could probably still spark up a tab on a submarine.
70s the book was written in.
Yeah, there you are. I've got a few more categories here. I don't know if we want to do them all. Let's do it. A few more categories.
Let's go.
Okay. Would this movie have been better if it had Jack Ryan, Dr. Richard Kimball, or President James Marshall in it? It's got to be Jack out of these three, I think.
So,
but it's like the 70s, isn't it? So he's probably still got his back injury and hasn't even made it into the company yet.
So maybe, because I mean, the book itself is a little bit alternate reality-ish when it kind of leans into the idea that, like, because of the SALT treaty, nuclear war is not much of a threat, and like that's why like this fighter is such a massive threat, because it's the ultimate strike vehicle, right? Because it's got anti-radar, it can be fucking anywhere. Maybe Jack Ryan, Lieutenant Jack Ryan of the U.S. Marines, is now a pilot in the U.S. Marines, and he too was flying an experimental aircraft codenamed Millennium Falcon. And just as Clint Eastwood is about to get hammered by some Russian mooks, all of a sudden the planes get taken out from behind, and then you've got Jack Ryan flying the plane, this incredibly souped up, modernized cargo plane that looks like a bit of a hunk of junk on the outside, but it's got up where it counts, kid. And it's just this like barrage of fire. And of course, like gun turrets being operated by Dr. Richard Kimball, who's got a bad throat. She was like, like Chewbacca kind of noises. Just you see where I'm going with this, basically.
I know, I got it.
So, yeah. So there we go. Jesus Christ.
Would this movie have benefited from a weird little scruffy guy played by Peter Falk?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it always is, right? So
100%.
So I've got a couple of ideas for this. So the obvious one, right, is that he's the opposite number of the MI6 guy. So he's like an old, like, chain smoking company guy. Yeah. He's also there going like, you gotta get this place. Oh my God, he's got up, he's in the air. Like, that's cool. So that's one. The other idea I had was that yeah, sure, he can speak Russian because his mum was Russian, but actually he needs like more Russian lessons. So while he's training at like whatever Air Force base he's out there doing some training, he's also doing some Russian language classes, and it's actually Peter Falk who's teaching him Russian. And at the very end, when he's doing his like trench run bit, instead of just his own voice saying "think in Russian," it's like, hey, one more thing, you gotta think in Russian, kid. You gotta think in Russian, and then he's like, you gotta think in Russian. My wife is always telling me, you gotta
think in Russian, you know? Did you know Peter Falk actually tried to join the CIA?
No? Wow. How's that not come up before?
Peter Falk applied for a job with the CIA, but was turned down because of his union membership.
Oh my God, because he thought he was a stinking commie.
Goddamn communist. Can you imagine? We could have had a world in which Peter Falk wasn't an actor, but was possibly the fucking greatest CIA officer ever. There's many worlds theory, man. It would be pretty fast to live in that world, because he would still have like the weird little squint, because obviously he would still have like lost his eye as a child.
Man, doesn't bear thinking about what we might have missed by not having him, but also, God, you know, if you were like a part of the South American cartels, like what you might have gained from interacting with him.
Was this guy with the death squads? And it's just like Peter Falk, just like, one more thing, you know, when my wife kills labor organizers down in the global south.
He's just flown in from trying to get for getting weapons to the brave freedom fighters of the Mujahideen. Helping out Charlie Wilson. Get man pads to the Afghanis.
It's like, I've just come back from flying out a truckload of stingers to our friends in the Mujahideen, and
that's it.
Just imagine just like kind of strolling through the door, like, I've just got back from Afghanistan. He's like picking all the Afghan dust off his little boots, and he's like, right, okay, so what's the next job? Okay, we got the guy I taught Russian to is now stealing a plane. Okay, cool.
On the subject of this, would this movie have benefited from Jeffrey Wright? 100%. So if not Peter Falk, then Jeffrey Wright. For me, I think he also could have done the same. Well, he brings a natural gravitas to him, which I think would have been a nice counterpoint to the sort of, as you say, bumbling, cigar smoking, brandy quaffing kind of British MI6 guy. So
exactly. It adds an even darker kind of shade to it when, like, you kind of cross-reference it with a book, and the SIS sacrifices a British citizen for this plane.
Yeah.
It's a plane, dude. It's a fucking aeroplane. It's a plane that's going to go straight to America. You're not going to get a sniff of it, mate. You guys can sit there with your tornadoes and your English electric lightnings are about to be like obsolete anyway and fucking suck it. America's going to have the super fighter.
I will say that 1982 was a great year for the Harrier jump jet. Just saying.
It was, yeah. Oh, it
pretty good,
definitely was, yeah.
I saw the wall fly out, and I saw the wall fly back in again. Is this movie pro or anti-CIA? I think it's pretty obviously pro, especially the sequel.
Strongly pro CIA, absolutely.
Yeah. The most pro. I mean, would you expect anything less from Clint Eastwood? It's the most company man movie.
Yeah, it's tremendous. It's tremendously pro CIA.
Before I do the next and penultimate category, have you got any notes from the Peanuts gallery, Rory, that you'd like to share with us?
You better fucking do. So the notes in the Peanut gallery, when I go through user-generated content that other people make and find reviews on Letterboxd that I find funny. 2.5 stars. Dad mode challenge. Take off your pants, get drunk alone, and watch the most boring Clint Eastwood movie you can find. I miss my girlfriend very much. One contemporary review of this film likens it to being boring, just like the Eiger sanction. But the Eiger sanction rules. This is a fun Cold War espionage thriller, and that reviewer is an idiot. Liked the Cold War thriller steeped in shadow and 80s synths. Disliked the supposedly cool-ass jet stuff. Why is it so long? Please, my time on Earth grows short.
That's right.
Clint Eastwood speaks Ameri-Russian and steals a brain-controlled plane. 4 stars.
4 stars?
Someone gives it a 2-star review with just the words Blu-ray.
Blu-ray?
Blu-ray. Hey, we have this pilot with crippling PTSD. Should we get him help? No, let's send him deep cover to the USSR to steal a jet you control with your mind. Bet. I have one here that is incredibly horny. 2 hours of espionage, and all I could think about was what else Clint's hands could operate. Ooh, and shout out to his facial expressions while flying the stolen plane, which also made my stomach do the thing. Maybe I'm becoming too comfortable on this app, but his daddy energy made me write this. Smiley face emoji, up and down arrow emoji, and a sparkly emoji. These words have been said and now can't be put back. But yeah, so there we go. It's got a lot of people giving opinions about the kind of match up with what I said, how the thriller aspects of it age better than the dogfighting and stuff.
Right, to go off the back of what you just kind of said there, Dane Chavez Award for missed opportunity in the movie. So my one for this is the movie can't quite decide whether it's... I mean, Top Gun hasn't come out yet. Okay, so that revolutionizes and makes incredibly sexy the fighter jet movie. Okay, before then, movies about military aviators are like Battle of Britain and stuff. It's all about like, oh, men in dogfights, or like, you know, when was Iron Eagle? Don't know.
This was definitely pre-Iron Eagle.
Yeah. So this movie can't decide whether it's like an action movie about a fighter jet or a spy espionage thriller. So there's 2 ways they could have gone here, like sort of as the missed opportunity. They could have either made it ahead of Top Gun. They could have made it into more of a fighter jet movie. So they could have made more of his time in Vietnam, maybe showed an entire mission of him as a young man in Vietnam with some actual narrative and some stakes behind it. They could have then showed that the impact of that and his PTSD from that is that he has tremendous nerves about getting behind the joystick of another military fighter jet again.
Yeah.
Even though he has this gift and he's the most talented pilot and he's had this long storied career, he's now fundamentally broken. His struggle, the lie that he believes is true is that he can't fly a plane anymore. And the truth he needs to accept is that he can fly a plane again. And the narrative thrust is him doing that, right? So you have the initial setup of how he loses that ability through the horrific crash that obviously brings him down in Vietnam. 2, he then retrains. There's a whole sequence in the US with a military test plane where he has to unlock his ability to fly a plane again. Maybe he encounters either a mentor or a former contemporary who is now much senior in rank because he stayed in or something. Yeah. And there's a conflict there he has to deal with. And then finally, there's the mission. And we just play real short, like get him into Russia. The spying's done with somebody else helping him out. So he's just kind of being ferried to the plane and then shoved onto the plane. And then it ends as a fighter jet movie with dogfighting in the air, him now having to do the thing that he's been training to do. So like there's one version of the movie, okay? The other version of the movie is he isn't the pilot, or there is a pilot, but the movie's not about the pilot. So it's the handler who has to get him into Russia and get him to the plane, his movie.
Yeah.
And then the movie ends with him flying away, and you're stuck with the guy on the ground who has to deal with getting out of Russia now, and the swarm comes after him, and actually he's a sacrificial lamb, and the whole thing falls apart, right? But it's and then, you know, you're talking about your bleak sort of espionage thriller. You talk about the point of view of all the embittered people who are living under the yoke of communism. You're talking about their experience. This guy is down in the trenches with them. He's down in the muck with them. And he could have these conversations with these people and say, look, do you think I'm going to get back to America at the end of this? Like, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm just as screwed as you are. Like, this guy flies in the plane. There's only one seat in that plane. And then you've got that movie, you know, following that guy, and then what he goes on to do. You know, so for me, there's the missed opportunity is like this movie kind of plays it safe weirdly. It makes a pretty non-remarkable espionage thriller. It makes a pretty non-remarkable plane movie, despite the special effects at the time, which I grant you were advanced for the time. But there's not a compelling story in either of those. Whereas you could be a compelling story, like with human stakes for the characters involved. Yeah. By a few men's either way.
Absolutely. A missed opportunity that they could have had. They would have made the final dogfight, the final. And I know I keep going back to this and how it could have been better. The Firefox is fast. It's incredibly rapid. So the only way to catch up with it is get a Firefox who would come from behind it and match speeds it. Russia at the time had, I think, 2 actual serviceable aircraft carriers. Right? There's nothing stopping a scene in which the Russian aircraft carrier launches planes to head towards the Firefox. Yeah. They don't need to be able to outrun it, just meet it. You got a head-on engagement with, say, a bunch of the Marinized MiG-29s that had, and also those, we had like little Yak 141 VTOL things that were like the Harry Abbott shit. And like, it's one of them go in, it has a fight with them, it's a proper tussly, getting nasty dogfight. It knocks the shit out of them, but it's damaged, and then bang, this is when the bad guy comes in behind it. This is when now there's way more risk, there's more peril, because, like, when you're flying the fastest plane in the world and you're being chased, by definition, it's not going to be as concerning as you've just, like, shot down, like, 7 29s or whatever, and you've used up all but one of your missiles doing that. You've maybe got 1.5 seconds of cannon ammunition left, and shit, now comes a second Firefox. You know, Mr. President, a second Firefox has hit the screenplay, and that would have there's a missed opportunity to throw some other planes in against the Firefox. I mean, it destroys a helicopter just basically on the deck of the ship. It's just whatever. Throw some other planes in just to show its superiority, just to show how it can take down a whole swarm of them, but then that's when it gets ominous and serious, when it meets its match from behind. And then you have a real fight that would have really exciting stakes about it.
It's not just equally matched, he's outmatched now, because now he has less ammunition.
Exactly. He's like kind of behind the 8 ball. And that's when a fight scene will get really fun. That's when this would become a really nasty, hairy fucking furball of a dogfight. And that would have been class.
Yeah. Totally agree, man. There's a couple of strong ding Chavez's there. Our final category is the command and signals call signs of the movie. Man, I don't know why I keep doing this. I've not prepped any for these. Gant, right? Okay, Gant. All I've got for Gant is sweaty back, because he sweats for the movie. Cowboy. That's good.
Literally cowboy. I wouldn't be fucking surprised if cowboy was his call sign as a pilot as well. Let's be real here. I mean, yeah.
Blondie.
Gant, you call him cowboy.
No name.
Yeah, no name.
Dirty Harry.
Unforgiven.
Yeah, would be 10 years later. Yeah.
Hey, that's the time traveling alternative. You call them Unforgiven. Why? You'll know in 10 years' time. Yeah, you might not like that call sign, but your kids are gonna love it.
It's your cousin Jerry Eastwood. He's that new call sign you're looking for. Oh God.
Yeah.
God, I mean, Freddie Jones as Kenneth Aubrey, for me, Mr. Toad, or Futher.
Yeah.
Or just eyebrows.
Okay, totally eyebrows. Yeah. Or just Farmer, like a Hobbit, because he looks like an extended Hobbit.
I mean, who else is there? Ronald Lacey gets really underused in this movie. Nothing. Just totes.
Yeah. So I think Buchholz would be something like very like he'd be button down or something because he's a very straight-laced guy.
Straight-laced.
Button down or
Vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That's all I've got.
Yeah.
And so it ends. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So we've just been discussing the 1982 movie Firefox, directed by and starring Clint Eastwood. Roy, what have we got next? Have we got a movie next for the pod already lined up?
We don't, because we're going to surprise you all, because since our friend and colleague Sanya is currently lost at sea at the moment, he's getting to pick the next film. We'll let you know on the socials what the next film we've got coming up is.
Speaking of socials, you can always find us on Instagram at Clear and Present Dudes.
That's right.
Feel free to email any queries or movie suggestions or requests or anything like that to our new Gmail account, so clearandpresentdudes@gmail.com. And like I said earlier, if you have any feedback, really positive, you could review or leave comments on Spotify and leave reviews and rate on Apple Podcasts. Also, you can do that on wherever else you get podcasts, be it Podcast Addicts, Castbox, all those places as well. That'd be much appreciated. That would really help us out big time as we try and grow our little podcast into something beautiful and great. I suppose that's all that's left to say, Rory, is just you and I tonight
we've been
clear and present
dudes.
Dudes. It's two of us. How do we fuck it up with two of us?
Every time. We've been clear and present dudes. I've been Rory O'Toole. He's in Mike Dunbar. Sanya Björkson's been lost at sea. Learn to smoke. Russia needs you to.